Our guest is very special today. He comes from the world of entrepreneurship and startups. Samir was one of the pioneers in India's startup ecosystem. In 2008, he co founded the Morpheus, India's first and highly respected accelerator, and Morpheus Gang, an awesome peer to peer community of founders that I have had the privilege to be a part of. In 2014, he decided to shut down the accelerator program completely in response to an intense call for undertaking an inner journey of self finding and self awareness. Partly, this was caused by his quest to understand intuition, which he had seen as a key quality of all pioneering startup founders and all other human pioneers as well. He spent the last 6 to 7 years exclusively in that process, and the deeper journey still continues. In 2021, Samir's breakup from startups ended, and he co founded Supermorpheus, an active and loving startup community with 1,000 plus members like myself and portfolio of 100 plus investments like Avishkaar's. Supermorpheus is a movement to support evolution of consciousness in the startup ecosystem. He has spent more than 2 decades in and around startups, starting as a software program at a startup that was based in Bangalore and Silicon Valley. He co-founded his first startup, Madhouse, towards end of 2004, which was acquired in mid 2007. Currently, Samir is also working on a book slated to be released early next year, titled Future of Startups, very aptly titled, From Finite Towards Infinite. The core theme of the book is about integrating the inner practice of evolution of consciousness with the outer practice of building startups. Samir, it's an honor and a privilege to have you as the first guest on the future of education. So it's essentially the guy who is talking about future of startups, also going to talk about future of education. I don't think it could be a coincidence or serendipity. It was supposed to be like this. Thank you, Samir, for coming. So I'll start off with the first very simple concept. The way this podcast is organized, there are 4 parts to it. One is trying to learn from your experiences of life, trying to figure out and learn something from your expansionist thinking, how the future is going to be like. Then a small rapid fire kind of questions where typically the answer of these questions is it depends, but I will not let you do that. And finally a surprise element for you.
Okay.
Right, so let's get started with the first part of the question, and I'm going to use this tablet as my helping device to make sure that we are going in the right direction. So all of us, I think we pretty much are of the same batch. I'm a 2001 pass out, and I think you are 98, right? So if I remember correctly, we grew up in a different era, almost 2 decades back. The aspirations were different, the expectations were different. We went through some of the things knowing certain things, and some things without knowing what we are trying to pursue.
Yep.
Given that background, I would like to understand from you, what are the top 3 skills that you feel that whatever Indian education system was able to provide you, that you have been able to utilize in your career? We always talk about the negative parts of it, but what are the positive things of those, the educational experience that you had?
See, if I look at my school and college experiences, university experience, there are 2 parts to it. One is the academic part, one is non-academic part. So my honest truth is that I cannot think of much which I learned from the academic part, school or college. It was very non-inspiring. But in my school, there was a very rich cultural aspect to the school. So I used to always be somebody who participated in as many extracurricular as possible. So from reading the news in the morning assembly to playing in the morning the band of the morning prayer. So I did a lot of those things. I traveled on a lot of trips. I still remember at the age of 9, I was part of a school quiz team of 3 people, and there was a team from all over the state. We all traveled to Ahmedabad. From Delhi. That was my first trip, long trip in the train, and it was amazing. I mean, in terms of the learning and exposure which we got. To go to Ahmedabad and eat Gujarati food and meet people from everywhere else. So it was amazing. And next year again we participated in the same quiz, and we went to Jabalpur this time.
Okay.
Right. So to me, the learning and excitement of school life was always around non-academic aspects, and it stayed the same in college.
Okay.
So in fact, in my own case, when I went to engineering college, within 2 weeks, I felt very strongly that this was not my place.
Okay.
I was not very happy. And I could see my seniors, who were graduating and getting jobs. I did not want to live that life. And the thing was that I never really thought, I was a very happy-go-lucky guy, so I never thought or planned my career. So I was in engineering college just as part of the herd, you can say, right? So when I realized that, I said that maybe I need to think about what I should become, and I did that process, and I came up with this understanding I should have a creative career. I felt that I was on that side more, and within creativity, I liked fashion design.
Okay.
So in my first year holidays, I went back home and I tried to convince my parents to allow me to quit college and take a fashion design. And this is in 1995. And you can imagine, parents were not at all amused, even though they said it's up to you. But they said, we think you should finish your college and then you see what you want to do. So I did finish, but honestly, all my life, inspiration in college was all, like my favorite place in college was auditorium.
Okay.
Which is where all the festivals were prepared before they happened, right? So I never felt inspired, except one or two teachers in the thing. But I think what I got from school and college were hostel life. I was studying in Patiala in hostel. I think that was great. Living by yourself, making friends for lifetime. Many of them are still very close to us.
Right.
So all that has stayed with me. Academically, almost nothing actually.
Okay. So, for me to know that you wanted to be a fashion designer, that definitely, doesn't go along with today's Samir Guglani. No, fantastic. So would it be safe to say that in terms of, maybe just as a concluding point, it is the space and the environment that the school or the college that was able to provide to you,
Yes.
that is something which, knowingly or unknowingly, the education system has figured out well.
Yes, so I think my school and college both were holistic in that sense, because there was a lot more habit. So if I was not academically inclined, I got something else to learn, right? Maybe there were children who were more academically aligned, so they got that to learn. So, but see, basically, I am not somebody who supports the current state of education system. If what we went through, what our children went through, so that is the reason my daughter has gone into a completely different direction.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. So there was basically no inspiration, and that is because the teachers were not inspired. Like somebody said something to me later on in life. They said your favorite subject and favorite teacher will always be the same. And it's true. Subject which I used to hate in school, I love them today. Because
Example?
I am history, biology, civics, geography. I used to hate them because the teachers were absolutely boring in that sense. But each subject is fascinating if you look at it.
Right.
So one of my gurus, Sri Aurobindo, he said that the strongest power of a teacher is contagion.
Right.
So if you are so passionate about the subject yourself, somebody who comes around you will catch that bug basically.
Absolutely. I think that's very beautifully said.
Yeah.
So now, I know everyone talks about fundamental level of changes with education system. I'm sure the current government is also trying to do that. And everyone has been beating around the bush.
Yeah.
I believe personally, out of my own experience, when you try to make a whole, either you can probably change everything, like uproot everything, destroy everything, and create something new.
Yeah.
Which I think in education system may be slightly difficult.
Yeah.
But somebody can probably do that. So I believe, we have to go through one change at a time.
Yeah.
But that one change, like there is no tomorrow. So if you were given a choice, as per you, what is that one change that has to happen?
See, I personally think that I've just slightly different view in that India, we are very lucky to live in a very democratic, diverse country, right? Where it is possible to have many flavors of education. If you see, so I think there is no need to change the whole system to something. You can have different flavors and people can choose what they like, and I think that could be that one change. So my daughter has always been in alternative school, so I'm very familiar with the alternative, and there are many different alternative philosophies, and each one has something unique to offer.
Right.
One thing which discourages many people who wish to go there is that alternate education of 10-12 years is not recognized at par with the CBSE. Right. So I think one thing would be good, and I think I probably heard about that, or my mentor was talking that basically, so what you can do is each school which can give 10 to 12 years of that education, which is same number of years of 10th and 12th. those kids are basically equivalent to 10th, right? And you can have an entrance exam, like in the US you have SAT,
right,
for the university system, right?
Right.
So that will enable a lot of experimentation in education, right? Currently, and I said my mentor is an education expert, and in his own words, the education is being killed by the boards basically. There is too much system, too much fixity over there. You should give that fluidity to people, which in some cases has come, but not fully. So that means more people can try more different things. Somebody who's comfortable with mainstream straight jacket, we should let them be. Somebody wants to experiment and be more whatever radical in that thing, they should also be. So, and if the newer basically we need to allow new experiments in education,
right?
And if some of them succeed, right, then you can have masses also moving over there. Because of this problem with board, we don't have enough experimentation in education.
But what you said was like having some sort of a SAT system or a skill analysis system in place at a certain time of life, standardized
before undergraduate, right?
Before undergraduate.
So before undergraduate, then whatever is happening in schools is happening, right? The school needs to deliver on SAT.
But how is that? I mean, that is the case today also, right? So, for example, you have these board examinations only in 10th
an alternative school which doesn't follow the board. That child is not qualified to write a board exam, right? To write a exam of IIT or any of that.
But then there is a concept of this open school.
But then they have to come different way and kind of merge into that, right? So there is because in my generation there are many people, even other generation who can see that they want their children to be expanded. But one thing which pushes them back is that education will not allow their child to access the undergraduate opportunity. Why should we take that away, right?
Right. So what you are saying is having giving breathing space to alternative education systems.
Yes.
But still, standardizing at some point of time.
Yes. Okay.
And that's the way you move forward. That's
one option, because allow more experimentation. Let's see what more comes out.
Absolutely. तो समीर वहीं से शुरू करते हैं कि बेसिकली आपने कहा कि जो मेंटोर ने आपके कहा था कि फॉर यू टू फॉर यू आर हियर बिकॉज यू वांट योर चाइल्ड टू बी फ्री. But for that to happen, you have to be free. So tell a little bit about that. What it really meant.
तो basically देखो उन्होंने कहा कि she asked a question, are you free yourself? तो मेरे दिमाग में एक बैक स्टोरी चली कि I always was somebody who wanted freedom. So I never followed the system. I just did whatever I felt right. I struggled also, but I succeeded also. And that was the time the Morpheus, the accelerator we started, was already doing well. This was 2012. So the approach had worked out. So my impression for myself was I was reasonably free. तो but जैसे मैं ये सोच रहा था, I heard her voice.
Okay.
She said, wait a minute, you don't have to answer this question. You have to not answer it to me or anybody else, but you need to look within yourself and know, are you free or not? What I can tell you is, until a parent is free, the child can never be free. You see? तो उन्होंने कहा कि जैसे समझो कि आपके घर पे 30 टाइप्स का खाना बनता है. 30 dishes is your menu. So you might give the freedom to the child to say, if you don't like something, you tell us and we will give you an alternative option.
Right.
So you see, while you might consider that as freedom, that is not freedom. That is freedom within 30.
Right.
So the moment she said this, I realized that I was not free. Because food mein 30, travel mein 50. So I had my own limited world, and that is where the child was going around. So and then two things hit me. I was not free. So that really triggered me that I want to be free, and I also want to be a good father, for which also had to be free.
Right.
So this conversation really kind of penetrated inside of me, and the only clue she gave was that you need to look within yourself, see your own limitation, and dissolve them. Right. Till that time, I was somebody who was a full atheist, rationalist. I used to only look outward. मेरे को तो concept ही नहीं पता था अंदर देखना क्या होता है. कि मतलब आंखों को अंदर कर ले क्या करेंगे, right? So I started to struggle, but luckily, as my daughter joined at school, the whole school was of people who were kind of in a similar approach. So I was able to talk to some people, and one of them gave me a book to read, Jiddu Krishnamurti, Think on These Things, right? So the point being that what the big insight was that parent needs to be free for the child to be free, right? So that was very powerful, and then my daughter went into that school. So that school was inspired by philosophy of integral education, which was kind of created by Sri Aurobindo and Mother in Pondicherry,
Right.
and they called it also free progress education, right? So that has 2-3 fundamental principles. One of them is that nothing can be taught.
Okay. Very
So
interesting.
what they say is the true process is learning, and the need to learn comes from within. And they say that each child has a need. If you leave them in a space which offers them all kind of opportunities to learn, intellectual, academic, art, mechanics, sports, the child will want to engage with everything.
Right.
So there is no need to specialize for a child. If the child is not told by parent or the system that this subject is better than them, they will probably be interested in everything. Right? That is very interesting. And then the learning is driven by the child itself. So free progress learning was the concept which they came up with. And it is done in an environment where teachers are not authorities. They are obviously senior people. They know the subjects. They know things in life. But they are more there as friends and guides to the child rather than the ones who will tell you what to do. Right? And that makes a big difference. Right? So once we went to that school, we really felt from within that we belong here. Right? And we joined that school and we had a great time, and we stayed there for about 8 years.
Okay.
And at that time there were some changes in the school which we felt it was going away from the openness and the space it provided. And my daughter had by that time also, like, she took a decision actually.
Oh, okay.
So one of the another part of free progress education is to let the child make the decision. Right? So at the age of 11, she made a decision. She was no longer happy in the school, right? And because the school was originating in Pondicherry, the philosophy. So we used to be visiting Pondicherry and Auroville for the last 10 years, and there were a lot of schools over there. So then in November 2020, we moved from Chandigarh to Auroville and Pondicherry because we wanted to support her in continuing that kind of education.
Okay.
Because there was no other alternative school in Chandigarh
Right.
of that type. So we just moved in. So we spent almost a year in Auroville, where she was, for the 6 months, she was doing self-schooling.
Okay.
Which means she chose classes like gymnastics, horse riding, English, art by herself, made her own calendar, and we used to take her, drop her. And then in those classes, she met certain kids who were going to some local schools in Auroville, and she liked the school. She said, I want to join that school.
Oh, fantastic.
So then she ended up joining that school. And post that, basically, this whole integral education thing started in Pondicherry in 1942. Original school was called Ashram School, which was set up by Mother herself.
Right.
So we had applied to that also.
Right.
But that school gets a lot of applications, and they have their own system of figuring it out. But anyway, in year 2, which was also the last year she could apply, she got in. Right? So then we moved to Pondicherry. So in the last 1.5 years, she goes to Ashram School,
Right.
which is really, actually we had a good time in Koveda, but this is just way better. So very rigorous academically. So for example, so French is one of the main languages they use. So she had to learn French. Sanskrit is mandatory. You got to pick up your mother tongue. So she picked up French, Sanskrit and Kannada, which is a mother tongue,
Right.
in the same year.
Wow.
And of course, English and Hindi is going on, and Tamil is the local language in Pondicherry, right?
So how many languages would she know now?
And she knows Punjabi. So
7.
5-6 language तो होएगी, right? And see, in Koveda में काफी relaxed था basically. मतलब we never saw her coming home with homework or anything or any writing. There she goes to ashram school.
Right.
Suddenly within 2 weeks she has all those जो कॉपियां होती हैं जिनके ऊपर खाकी कवर चढ़ाए जाते हैं, स्टिकर लगा के होमवर्क रोज कर रही है. So I was shocked at age of 12, the child which never got exposed to any of the rigor or writing and all was writing so much every day. And believe me, she has not allowed us to help her in any homework, anything. कभी-कभी बुलाती है हमें. Otherwise, she is figuring it out on her own. Right? So the child at the age of 12 is able to pick, and ashram school actually goes till 21. So college itself, like it's still the college age.
Oh, is it okay?
And there is no recognized degree.
Okay.
Which they will give, but ashram school has so much reputation that kids who graduate from here can apply to any university in the world, and their education is considered equal to undergraduation.
Fantastic.
Right? And they are doing 2 hours of sports every day, including Sundays.
Okay.
School itself is 6 days a week.
Right.
2 hours of sports every day, because the development of body is as important as development of mind.
Right.
and development of creative abilities is also as important. Right? So the child should develop in all direction, become an integral human being.
Right.
And at some point, they will take interest in one particular direction of project or professionality, and they can do that. Right. So we find it very fascinating. In fact, I would think that all schools should be like that actually. So these guys are not missing out on maths or history or any of that stuff. But it's just that the scope has grown basically.
Okay.
The scope of education is much more, and the teachers are very friendly, and they treat children with a lot of respect. And of course, there's a lot of infrastructure over there, for all kind of activities, from classical dance to performances to singing to, sports facilities, farm house, lots of stuff to do basically. And I see the children, my daughter and all the children, her friend, they are growing pretty beautifully actually.
That's very, very interesting. Sameer, two things. One observation I would like to make is, I think when you said that, the teacher had asked you to be free, I think maybe you have become free because, the kind of things that you mentioned, if I try to put it in my life, like my 11-year-old telling me that, I want to change the school. तो मेरा तो पहला रिएक्शन होगा क्या प्रॉब्लम है भाई एक सही रास्ता मिल गया लेट्स जस्ट गो देयर सो आई थिंक इन दैट सेंस द फैक्ट दैट that requires a lot of freedom of mind, at least at your end and your wife's end.
Yes.
To
understanding basically. So you have the two. See, I'll tell you, even when she went to Auroville, right? There was no pressure for her to continue the school. जैसे Auroville में school में थी, कुछ थी, आश्रम school admission आ गई. But two options. So it was her decision which one to take.
Wow.
And even when you move to Pondicherry, see, Pondicherry is a much more simpler place as compared to Chandigarh.
Right.
Chandigarh is very fancy.
Okay.
Lots of restaurants.
Right.
Mall है, ये है, वो है, right? She really missed that. तो हमने उसे एकदम free hand दिया हुआ था, अभी भी है. If she feels she wants to leave and go back to Chandigarh and figure out something else, we are with her. Or she wants to go to another school, or she wants to travel the world, it's all okay.
बड़ा एक इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन इसमें आता है. आई वॉन्टेड टू कीप इट फॉर लेटर बट आई कांट स्टॉप माई सेल्फ. सी व्हेन यू आर सजेस्टिंग एंड प्रोपोगेट और व्हेन यू आर अ प्रोपोनेंट ऑफ ऑल्टरनेटिव एजुकेशन सिस्टम, what happens is in reality, the real life that we, at least we experience is there are a lot of constraints in life.
Yeah.
There are a lot of challenges in life.
Yes.
And life itself is not a very fair place.
Yes, absolutely.
It handles you a lot of, it gives you very, very unfair cards that that you are handed out.
Absolutely.
So now when somebody who has gone through such a free flowing experience of life, right, I am not saying that they will not have experienced some unfairness during the free flow experiences, but the fact is there are no, it looks like there are not many constraints, especially in the thought process that is offered to her. How do you see such a child who has seen such freedom when they are growing up, and when they come out of this education system, and when they say join a company, X company, Y company, a multinational corporation which has so many systems in place, which are there for a good reason also, how would they adjust, or that place is just not for them?
See, I give you two answers. One is that I am for a holistic education system. Alternative and holistic are two different things.
Okay.
There are a lot of alternative schools across the world which I think do not meet the minimum benchmark of what the education and learning should be. They just make it too cool, too easy. They take away the difficult things, and that is the child from that stream. Whenever they merge into mainstream, will struggle. But a holistic system is not removing academics, which most people do.
Not removing the rigor.
Not removing. If anything, there is higher rigor, which I see. Okay, they are adding sports to it, which basically makes kids like much more rigorous. Every day they have to play sports.
Right.
Okay, they also compete. By the way, she competed a few days back, and she understands. She already knows her timings of swimming and 400 meters and everything. Let the level of awareness.
Right.
मेरे को तो पता ही नहीं था ये सब चीजें ऐसा भी कुछ होता है, right? And she is not the only child, right? So a holistic system has to not take the school education and make some joke out of it.
Okay.
A system which expands the scope is what we need, right? Where you are able to do the academics, you are able to do sports, you are able to do creative things, without being too favorable to sciences. You see that's our current system is favorable to sciences.
Right.
But यहाँ पर क्या है कि English, history, geography, all academically equally enjoyable. Art is enjoyable, cycle trip is enjoyable, right? So then what you are creating is a expansive human being. If I have to give you an example in our context, right? Think of a person who does a job. And his career is single track basically.
Right.
He will do only certain number of things.
Right.
But we have done jobs in our life, right?
Absolutely.
So when you become an entrepreneur, you don't downgrade. You upgrade.
Yeah.
You do what you did in your job and you do 100 more things, right? So as an entrepreneur, actually you are much better prepared. And if you were to even go back and do a job, and which many entrepreneurs do, they become very good at it. Like I'll give you an example. So in Sana's school, in my daughter's school, they have March Past.
Right.
Which is, so it's an ashram school. So ashram kids and all the ashram senior people, they all do. And last time we went, we were standing on third floor. They were doing it on ground floor. So we watched from the top. It was so beautiful formations of, like kids.
Right.
And I said to Nandini, मैं कहा Nandini इस स्कूल का कोई बच्चा डफर नहीं निकलेगा बेसिकली.
Nandini, your wife.
My wife, right? क्योंकि क्या है कि अगर हर बच्चा कोई भी है, सी उसमें भी अंदर कोई इंटेलिजेंट है कोई कम है, बट हर किसी को ये आता है कि कैसे खुद को ऑर्गेनाइज करना है, कैसे इतने बड़े इवेंट में पार्टिसिपेट करना है. सी अब जैसे स्पोर्ट्स होती है वहां पर, तो टिपिकल स्कूल में क्या होगा, जिम्नास्टिक्स है, तो जो अच्छे बच्चे हैं जिम्नास्टिक्स में वो जिम्नास्टिक करते हैं.
राइट.
यहाँ पर हर बच्चा हर स्पोर्ट्स करता है. सो इफ यू आर द least flexible person in gymnastics, you will do something simpler, okay? But you will still do gymnastics. So actually they are pushing a kids a lot more. और मेरा एक दोस्त है, so basically see what will happen to Sana we don't know, but I know a lot of people who have graduated. So the person who suggested us to join the school, his name is Debo. So he tells his story.
What was the name of the person?
Debo.
Okay.
So Debo graduated from ashram school.
Right.
And then he wanted to experience something out. So he did basically he went to Auroville. He was doing some internship in a solar company. But he wanted to get out of the Pondicherry Auroville ecosystem.
Right.
So he was interested in advertising. So he took up some correspondence course.
Right.
And then he applied to Ogilvy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ogilvy and Mother.
हाँ.
Yeah.
अभी तो वही होगी basically. M is gone. And he applied with what, right? His portfolio of work which he did in the ashram school, the letter from his teachers, right? So it's a much bigger thing. And he got a telephonic interview and he got an offer. Okay.
Fantastic.
Now he goes to join the school, join his job. He's joining with 10 other people who are coming from all big schools and colleges.
Right.
And they are all talking about how many interviews did you go through? 5, 6, 7, 8 like that. They asked him. He said, what do you mean? I only had one phone call.
Wow.
You see, so this child had so much clarity in whatever they presented. He got the first offer. And then I think he was given some of the very premium luxury brand for, like the brand were being allocated. He got the premium luxury brand which everybody wanted.
Right.
And at that time, Ogilvy was pitching for the account. This guy, as a fresher, was able to do the deck and win the account.
Wow. Deb, your friend.
Debo.
Debo.
And now Debo's roommate, by the way, is the right-hand man of A.R. Rahman.
Acha. Very nice.
The musician. Right? So basically, these kids are actually, so you think about entrepreneurship being kind of applied at that level. See, free progress is you make your own choices.
Right.
It's not that you're free of responsibility. Your also responsibility is also there, basically. Right? So I think it's an expansive process. It's not, but many alternative schools which do not do a good job give that impression to people that it is not. You have to work much harder as teachers
in these schools.
In normal school, teachers come and go. They get paid very little. All that is like a going on. Some schools, of course, do a very good job. I mean, even in the mainstream, that's not a problem. But you have to work much harder, basically. You don't have a board to support you, right? Your children will stand on their own quality.
Fantastic. इसमें board ही नहीं है school में?
They don't follow. See, because their education thinking is 50 years ahead of the boards, basically.
तो हाँ वो फायदा. So Sameer, to conclude the last thought, comparing some of the alternate education systems and the holistic education systems, what you are saying is basically alternate doesn't mean going in a different direction. Or rather, what holistic does a great job is you have academics, which some of the Indian schools have really worked hard on and cracked also,
Yeah.
but adding more layers and dimensions to it,
Yes, and wider and deeper both.
wider and deeper. So in that scenario, everyone has to work hard.
Yes.
The school system has to work hard, the school authorities have to work hard, the teachers have to work hard, the students have to work hard,
Absolutely.
and hopefully the parents have to work hard as well.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Parents have to.
Next segue I want to take here is, in our education system, we are almost always thinking it to be a system where 2 or 3 parties are involved. One is the child, second is the school,
Yeah.
and third, hopefully, maybe the boards or the regulatory environment. But nobody is talking about parents.
Yeah.
I would like to hear from you, what is the role that the parents have to play, or what according to you, because you have seen both the systems very closely,
Yeah.
what according to you is the role of a parent in the whole education of a child?
See, as I started in the last section saying that if the child has to be free, the parent has to be free, right? So
Right.
parent actually is probably the most important actor in this space, right?
Okay.
So if you think of a child, right, how does a child learn? If you think a young child, first thing is they act out of instinct,
Right.
if they feel hungry or they feel anything. What is the second thing they do? They do imitation. Who do they imitate? Parents, right? Then the next way of learning is instruction. So parents are also involved in a lot of instruction to the child. So while we may not realize it, but we have been as parents very, very important and most critical outer influence to the child, right? And we are the one who will choose a school,
Right.
for the child. So we have to realize that we have to bring ourselves center stage and become much more aware of what is our role and what kind of force are we sending. Because we are sending force all the time, but we can be unconscious about it, we can be conscious about it. The only difference is when you become conscious about something, you can choose to modify it.
Right.
Right? If you have certain thing in you which you are relaying to the child, which you think you should not, then you can do something about it. Right? So now if you look at 2 parents, let's say, who have children going to the same school in the same class.
Right.
Right? The 2 children are not the same. What's the difference? Only the parent. Right? One parent might be, because also many parents are trying to, so basically there is a sense of ownership of the child.
Yeah.
So it's an asset basically.
The extension of me and my personality.
And it's an asset, right? Asset has to do well. It's like
Yes.
it's like I own a stock, right? Or I own a house, and I want everybody to look at it and say, "Wow!" And then there is competition with other people, and then we want the child to do what we could not do. So look at how much we are putting on the child, right?
Yeah.
So basically, if you believe in there is an innate nature of a child which needs to be given the space to flower. But what do we become? And in our school in Chandigarh, they used to say something very interesting. He says, as parents, we are not supposed to be, or teachers or parents, we are not supposed to be potters which are deciding the shape of a child. We are supposed to be gardeners.
Right.
Which basically say, this is a seed, I don't know what it contains, but my job is to look after it and nurture it until it can take care of itself.
Wow.
Right? So each child actually had the capacity to be unique, great and intelligent. Right? There is no child in the world, in fact there is no adult in the world who doesn't have the capacity. What capacities will open up, how much they will progress, it really depends upon the environment, and the most strongest environment is the parents basically. Even when you are not with your child, see, some people will say, when I am with my child, I am very chill, but in the office they might be very stressed out.
Yeah.
But who you are deep inside is always being, the vibrations are always going into the child. As a parent, mother and father both.
Right.
Right? So even if you come home and you chill, but at office you are screaming on whatever, being pressured, all that is still being communicated in a very subtle manner. Right?
Yeah.
So you have to work on yourself at some level. I give you a very simple example. When my daughter was very young, and see, parenting is something which some of us take very seriously. Like to me, it was like I should do a good job of it, right? So I realized that I used to be scared of dogs. तो मैं कुत्ते देखता था, मैं भागता नहीं था, पर डंडा उठा लेता था. But I was not dog friendly. But I had understood that it was not the dog, it was me basically.
Right.
क्योंकि मेरे बहुत सारे दोस्त थे जो कुत्तों से बहुत प्यार करते थे. But I never had a reason to work on it, right? But when my daughter was born, I had a reason. I said, if I don't figure this out, my daughter will be scared of dogs.
Absolutely.
Right? So I actually took up an effort to figure out for myself and became friendly with dogs. And she is very friendly with pets.
In fact, I remember you mentioned this to me. The same is probably true for duck also.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we said, अंधेरा आएगा, भू आ जाएगा, भूत आ जाएगा. And you're somehow knowingly or unconsciously sowing the seeds of
We are, absolutely.
the fears.
Absolutely you are. Absolutely we are. We are sowing fears, which we are passing on our fears. We are adding more fears because we want the child. We are basically very short-sighted. We want, yesterday I went for a haircut. So there was a young child who had come. She was crying. She didn't want a haircut. So what was the family doing? They were promising her lollipops. Father was called. He brought lollipops.
Right.
So that this work gets done. That's what it is. They don't want to investigate कि why is the child uncomfortable, why does बाल धुल रहे थे उसके, ऐसी कोई प्रॉब्लम वाली बात तो नहीं थी. Why is the child uncomfortable? Nothing going. Basically, just somehow bribe the child or scare the child so that you can get your agenda fulfilled. Basically. So अब होता क्या ना, there is a concept called self-worth. So when a child is being told all the time, children will do things out of their natural instincts or curiosity. And like it's possible that a child comes and knocks this thing off, right?
Right.
It's out of curiosity. So we don't want anything to go wrong. So we are always micromanaging the child, always directing them what to do, what not, and always giving them feedback.
Right.
So whenever they do something which we approve of, we give them some kind of an approval. Could be a smile, could be a lollipop, right?
Yeah.
So what you are doing, you are programming the child.
Yeah.
Control आपके हाथ में, remote control आपके पास है. You are pressing the buttons. So now think about this child when they become big. They would have no confidence to take their own decisions.
Absolutely.
They will always look at some authority figure, boss, principal, teacher, right? So that's the problem, basically, right? So this child might have the most intelligent brain, but doesn't have the courage to take their own decisions. So self-worth has to be, but if you let the child be, let them take their own things. See, you have to be around to support them, to protect them.
Right.
But I think 10 times when we interfere in a child's life, 9 times there was no requirement. One time it was. So it's not about completely disappearing from the child's life and letting them, like one of my thing which my mentor said was like, see, basically creativity exists at the intersection of freedom and discipline.
Wow.
You say too much discipline, you crush the child, right?
Absolutely.
Right? Too much freedom, before they understand what is freedom, you lose the child. So if you look at the Western world, they have gone the other way basically.
And Eastern world has gone the one extreme of
Eastern world in India, China and all. China, I don't know, but we hear one is very strict, right?
Yeah.
So he says the only job of a facilitator, a parent or a child, parent or a teacher, is to look at the child, and whenever there is too much discipline,
ease out.
Ease out freedom. When it's too much freedom, add some discipline. It's a very beautiful concept, right?
मुझे एक चीज याद आ रही है कि जैसे पतंग उड़ाते हैं, when we are flying kite, it's like you ढील दो, तुम के मारो, ढील दो, बिल्कुल तुम के मारो, तभी उड़ेगा वो.
बट इसके लिए चाहिए क्या ना कि पेरेंट को, चाहे दोनों को या एक को, समय निकाल के बच्चे की लाइफ पे ध्यान देना पड़ेगा. आप लाइफ बच्चे की आउटसोर्स नहीं कर सकते. Or you can go to school, go to classes, all that is fine, but you are still present, you are understanding what is happening, ताकि जहाँ आपकी ज़रूरत है आप वहाँ पर आप कुछ कर पाएंगे, right? तो ये अभी another thing क्या है कि हमारे पास जो पेरेंट्स हैं, career, they are busy in their own careers.
Right.
Like I know a family in Pune where the mother went back to office maybe 2 weeks after delivery, something like that, very fast.
Wow.
She was thinking about what she missed. People are moving ahead.
Seriously.
Other than her, right? So, वो तो क्या extreme case है, but otherwise also we become busy, right? So we don't need to give all that. See, another thing is, what do the child want? Attention, basically. You are with the child for 1 hour a day. Give them full attention. See, your daughter just came. She had full attention. If you're talking to a child but looking into the phone, that is not attention.
Absolutely.
And all the tantrum of the child is only for one purpose. Attention. So it's a lack of attention which they crave, and they can't say it, they can't process it. They're too young to do it. Give attention for 1 hour, they'll be very, very happy.
Sameer, my next question is in the domain of education, but it also is using your current domain. So the hats that you are more than one, known for more than one things in life, of course, but the dominant thing that you are known for is your role with Morpheus and Supermorpheus.
Yeah.
Right? Investing into startups, identifying entrepreneurs and backing them to take their companies forward.
Yeah.
So during this process and journey, you must have come across many people, easily hundreds of entrepreneurs.
1,000 plus.
1,000 plus.
So Morpheus itself is 1,000.
Fantastic, right?
Yeah.
So, and here I am going to go with a narrowed, definition of success, which is, financial / how deeper they were able to take the product offering to the targeted audience. So I wanted to ask, is there a pattern that you have been able to find out amongst these entrepreneurs, people with this narrow definition of success, who have succeeded, and people with this narrow definition of success have not succeeded?
Yeah,
have you found a pattern? And then, if you can somehow relate it with education as well.
That pattern popped in front of me in 2011. I was going from Chandigarh, Delhi to Chandigarh in Shatabdi, and we were supposed to look at the applications of the next batch of Morpheus. So I started to think about what can we learn? हमारे जो past 5 batch हो चुके थे, 36 companies. What can we learn? Because you could easily see that there were companies which had taken off, which is your pattern of success at one point, and there were companies which did not take off.
Right.
तो मतलब कुछ लोगों का फ्यूल खत्म हो गया या हो जाएगा. तो I said यार ये मतलब I want to understand this. What can I learn? So I made a list. 18 here, 18 there out of 36. So I was personally not very happy that we had 50% companies not taking off. So what are we missing? So as I started to try to understand, the first thing which was very obvious was कि हर startup की जो main force है, founder is the main force.
Right.
And especially in the early stage, right?
Absolutely.
So there had to be something different between founders of group A and group B. Right? That's one thing. Second is that the core job of a founder is to do problem solving.
Right.
So you come and you sit in the morning in your desk, you have certain number of problems, right? So you have to prioritize, then take and then solve. So what is the problem solving style? So I narrowed down on that, and because I used to always spend a lot of time and hours with all the founders, so I had that data somewhere inside of me. So when I looked at it, I found 2 different styles of problem solving. One, what we can call the logical style, which means you have a problem, you apply a logical framework to understand it. And then you collect data, then you do experiment, you might talk to experts. So you are going linear steps. Then there was another set of people who were basically also starting to solve the problem in a logical manner, but somewhere in the early stages of their engagement, a certain flash of intuition came to them.
Okay, intuition.
Wow. Intuition is like a leap of knowledge which comes to you from nowhere, and it can't be logically deduced. It just shows up. And as an entrepreneur, I would guess that you probably have had your own share of experiences. No entrepreneur can reach. So now you think about it. So intuitive people's companies were taking off. The logical ones were not.
Very interesting.
And it was for me counterintuitive. But if you look deeply, what is logic? Logic is simply when you start to apply what you have learned in the past. So if you are solving a problem which you have solved before, the logic is helpful. But if you're solving a new and unknown problem, logic will become a trap. Now, startup journey is all about new and unknown.
Absolutely.
So, in a startup journey, intuition, ability to open up to intuition and to receive and have the faith and trust to try it out.
Right.
To me, was the singular thing which made the difference. And at that time, because my job was to help founders, I wanted to understand intuition deeply. I became absolutely obsessed with it. And I found out that not only in startups, but in all fields, wherever you see a human has pioneered, you can think of Einstein, you can think of Steve Jobs, you can think of A.R. Rahman. You'll always see a mystical process somewhere through which they're getting their ideas. Right?
Yeah.
So intuition seems to be a pioneering force for all of humanity, but we as an education system are stuck with logic.
Wow. And how do you think that can be applied into our normal day-to-day education system?
See, day-to-day education system is basically, there is a part in us which can learn from outside,
Right.
and record it, right, and reapply. So it's like I listen to music, I record and I replay it.
Right.
There is also a part in us which can receive from a higher space, because all new ideas come from somewhere else, right? So an education system has to balance, and both these faculties have to work together,
Okay.
right?
Right.
So this is so basically, I mean, intuition is too big a topic, but if people in the education industry are interested, they can create systems which will see. Basically, if you tell the child, I mean, we all talk about all our exams are like you eat and you vomit, right?
Absolutely. You
That's
commit
a
and
trick.
vomit.
You commit and well, basically. So, but if you can expand the system where you also have where a person is asked to come up and answer from within themselves. What are you saying? You're basically saying, see, you can't tell the child word intuition or not, but you can still draw out from them, right? Whatever is there inside of them. So there is a higher consciousness which has all the knowledge which we can access. So intuition is when you start connecting to that. And the biggest way to do it is, by the way, is for the adults who are around the child to carry that quality, because whatever quality the adults are carrying are being poured into the child.
Absolutely. But this reminds me, I'm a big fan of hearing other podcasts. So there was this talk by Javed Akhtar once, and somebody had mentioned to him or asked this question to him that you're such an analytical brain. Do you ever, like, how do you do your own decision making? क्या आप अपना दिल से decision लेते हैं या दिमाग से decision लेते हो? He had a beautiful answer. वो बोले कि ना, मैं जो ज़िंदगी के बड़े बड़े डिसीजन है ना, वो दिल से लेता हूँ और फिर दिमाग लगाता हूँ उनको इंश्योर करने के लिए वो डिसीजन एक्चुअली सक्सेसफुल हो.
हाँ, तो मर्ज हो गया ना दोनों.
हाँ, वही जो आपने बात बोला ना कि इंट्यूशन एंड लॉजिक हैव टू वर्क hand in hand.
Absolutely. They are both in us because they both have a role to play.
Yeah.
But if you take about intuition and only have a logic in the equation, you will go you can't go beyond a point.
Absolutely.
And all entrepreneurs know this basic. All the breakthroughs, all the ahas. Yeah. See, what is that bulb which you see, right, in comics? What is that? It's basically intuition. And so Partho, my teacher, he said something very interesting one day. He said, it's like human beings, we live in a box of time and space. We are trapped in that. And that's where our logic works. And he said, once in a while, you're in a silent state and the box disappears. And it's a very fraction of a second and a drop of intuition comes into your hand. And the box comes back. Now you have it. So you should try to validate it with the current scenario, which most people do, and they just drop. This is an idiotic thing. They just drop it. But people who have somehow the ability to see it and they believe in it and they'll say, let's me try it out. They are the one who take the leap into the future. Where intuition is almost like a future coming and telling you that this is what you should do to reach me. Sort of.
Almost like, Space Odyssey में जो एक black slab appear हुआ है.
Absolutely.
So Sameer, my next question is the most important question. It is also the name of this podcast, the future education. So you, with all your myriad of experiences, the so many U-turns that you have taken in life, so much freedom that you have had, what to you is going to be the future of education? And if you can also mention some of the actionable points for the educators, for the parents to take note of, so that they can also provide that future, or they can also curate those experiences for their children.
So I think my answer would be that I think what has happened is that current education system emerged out of the need of the industrial era to have certain workforce,
right,
which they required. So I don't know if that was their intention or not, but it became the world's education system, right? So it is a very narrow system today. So our education system is trapped. We need to break the boundaries. So what we need is to free the education system of the boundaries, of the limited ways it has got. I think all countries probably have their own. If you look at a mainstream education system, India, US, China, everybody has a very fixed way school and college is running.
Right.
I think that fixity needs to go away, in the sense it can be there as one alternative and it more needs to come. And the good news is it is already happening.
Right.
We have started to see many alternative ways. See, one thing is that you need to have children who are self-learners. So, and today we are living in a world, if a child is a self-learner, at least whatever can be learned digitally, people are able to go and explore that, right? And you look at industries, you look at companies, they are willing to engage professionals who know their work, may not have the degree, right? So I think education has already started to break away from those walls or that mindset. So I think the future of education to me is freedom of education, freedom of self-expression, and as parents we can support that as education. See, let's say I run a school, okay, and my one of my very close friend does run a school. You can be totally compliant with the CBSE curriculum without leaving any of that. You can create another layer of freedom for your children,
Right.
which is explored, right? So which means you are giving them the required education prescribed, but you are giving them also a space to explore more, right? This can be done by parents at home, this can be done by educators in school, and then there can be alternative schools and online schools and so much and so forth. So I think to me, education, future of education is more freedom,
Right.
right? And some kids will go to university, some kids will just travel around and get educated by themselves. Some will learn to program at home, some will do something else. So I think we will see even from my time, see, I talked about trying to be fashion designer, okay?
Right.
It was absolutely a unheard of thing. My parents could not even imagine fashion design is a respectable career option.
Right.
But today that is not so.
Absolutely.
You see, now we have so many liberal arts universities in India.
Right.
In fact, most of my friends who are more progressive, their children are going to a Azim Premji or Ashoka Jindal and similar university,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So they are no longer feeling that my child should only go to IIT. See, nothing wrong with IIT. But if IIT becomes the obsession for everybody else, then you kill diversity. So I think we are already seeing that happen. More options are opening up, more ways to educate yourself. So I think that will just continue to grow. And I think one of the big impacts obviously will come from AI.
Right.
Because AI is learning very fast what humanity has learned in past.
Right.
If we know the AI is basically going to observe human functions and keep replicating capacities, right? So whatever, now you think about an analyst, data analyst, right?
Right.
So each human data analyst needs to be trained, let's say from childhood till the age of 24.
Right.
Each time.
Right.
But you train the AI once.
They have
Done.
all the knowledge.
Right? So basically, nobody will hire data analysts and so on and so forth. So AI is coming to get whatever humanity is. But for me, it is a brilliant thing because humans have a capacity to go way beyond where they are today.
Right.
We have just become comfortable in the current life. So AI is coming to push us into a zone of discomfort. And as we know, all our growth happens when we are in a zone of discomfort. Right? If we have the capacity to grow up from where we are, I think humans have a lot of capacity. We talked about drawing more from within. Which the AI cannot do. AI doesn't have intuition. But we can have intuition, right?
Right.
So to me, that's the direction where the kids will, because if AI can do everything and the world is very abundant, then you don't need to work for money, then why would you work for? So you'll work for what you are interested in.
Right.
And you might take one of the 1,000 ways to learn. It's up to you, basically, right? See, we are sitting here doing the podcast and I'm seeing your colleague who's recording. I'm not sure if he went to a film school to learn this. Mostly self-taught, right?
Yeah, autodidacts, as they say.
That's it. So that's the future of learning. Maybe it's also the present of learning for at least some of us, but it will become more and more democratized and accessible to more people. That will be great, basically.
So what you are saying is essentially two things. One is there is going to be more self-learning.
Yes.
And the second part is there is going to be more freedom in learning. And the catalysts that are going to be there is essentially inception or advent of technologies like AI.
Yeah.
And also the realization of the industry that whatever we had in the past was archaic and not useful.
Yes.
So I think the fact that the industries of today are not really looking for a degree holder.
See today's industries, which you say, who are today's industries? mostly you say soft industries.
Right.
Software, content, creativity.
Yeah.
Industry of past was hard industry, manufacturing.
Yeah.
So there
Services.
is so the Googles and the Facebook and whatever big companies, startups of the world are happy to hire people who know what they are doing. They are not asking a degree, right?
Yeah.
So that mindset is not very hard. So see, we are today our leading organizations are startups.
Right.
And startups are the most evolved form of organization. They learn very fast, they adapt, they are not stuck in any past.
Absolutely.
So their mindset is already shifting to allow people of various talents to come in and work, right? If that happens, if I see, in past you had proofs of people going to college and getting jobs,
right?
You will start having proofs of kids who never went to college,
Absolutely.
went to college, did something.
Yeah.
Right? So, just see, I was 60% in 10th, 12th, below 60% in engineering.
Wow.
Okay, I have no academic whatever to say, right? But I am doing pretty well in life, basically, right? So for me, that I am a proof to myself that my child can also do well then, or other kids can do. There are other kids in our family or people might get inspired, right? So role models have to be there.
Right.
Who will set up a different trend?
So just to conclude this thought, what you are saying is, again, more flexibility and freedom in education, and more scope for self-learning, and catalyzed by what is happening in the industry, catalyzed by advent of AI, catalyzed by a lot of influencers or the social role models, and their success stories. And then it becomes common folklore, and it gets into every household, and that's how the whole process kind of works on its own. So Sameer, while you talked about the future of education, and you talked about AI being a catalyst in achieving the future of education, there is this strong fear. There, like everything in life, there is yin and yang, the positives and the negatives. So what AI is doing is basically enabling us to become much more creative, or much more focused, and much more transcend some of the limitations that we have today. But at the same time, for a lot of people, it is also a scare. Scare that earlier the jobs, people moved from blue collar jobs to white collar jobs because that's where knowledge economy was operating. But with things like ChatGPT, and other AI tools, even that place is now becoming a challenging space. You don't need to hire coders, because ChatGPT can write your own code. So how does, what role, do we need to, so from a very practical job oriented standpoint, do we need to ensure that certain skills are imparted in children so that, whether it is the field of knowledge economy or the manufacturing sector or the services sector, that, humans don't end up becoming irrelevant?
See, the thing is, what you need to understand is, if you look at the different species which exist on Earth, so you look at the plant species, right? Because animal species, bird species, they are what they are called as a typal species. Typal means there is a particular type in which they are stuck.
Right.
So if a bird has existed on Earth for 1 million years, the process of birth and living is exactly the same.
Absolutely.
Right. We are the only non-typal species, humans.
Right.
We started in the jungle. And today we are sitting here, right? So we have an inherent capacity to grow. So in a way, you can say the consciousness of the universe actually wants humans individually and collectively to grow.
Right.
But what humans do is, when we reach a particular point of comfort, we start resting, basically.
We become complacent.
We become enjoying the comforts. Okay. Then nature will do something to a collective to push you. There is a line of Sri Aurobindo which says, pain is the hammer of gods to chisel the unwilling man. So when we look from an individual perspective, we might feel, but actually what is happening is, to extend your point, from blue collar to knowledge economy, right? Now from knowledge economy to intuition economy. That's the progression, right? So AI, of course, in the short term might give pain, right, to many of us.
That's the hammer,
right? We got to get out there, and we've all, see, I can tell you that I now look back at my life, I said, I have been so lucky to be thrown out of my comfort zone. So when I finished my college, right, my first job was next to my house, half an hour from Chandigarh.
Right.
And my parents were very happy. It was a reasonably big known company, Shriram Limited. So they were very happy कि यार मुंडे दा मुंडा set हो गया, that kind of thing, right?
Absolutely.
I decided to leave. I was scared. I felt that I don't want to be in this factory setup. I will die of stagnations. Okay. So I took a very risky decision to pay 2 lakh rupees for a software course to switch over.
Right.
And guess what? That company turned out fraud basically.
Oh wow.
So here I was. I left my job. I took a loan from my chacha, 1.5 lakh rupees, and went for this course which I thought will upgrade me.
Right.
And basically, I finished in Bombay. I came to Chennai and I realized that the whole company was fraud. Now, 2 lakh rupees in 1999
was a lot of money.
Is right. So I was shooting bricks basically. कि ना मैं electrical engineer, ना मैं computer engineer, मैं करूँ क्या life में? और मेरे पास loan खड़ा हो सिर पे, right? So that forced me.
That was a hammer.
And then from there, in all that stress, I went to Bangalore once, and my friends were living there, and I was looking for a job for 3 months. Right. I used to have 30 to 40 copies of my resume in my bag all the time. Where I would be walking down the road in Bangalore, I would see some company, technology limited, I used to go and
give you a resume.
Whatever interview I got, I used to read that programming language and go. I was even ready to work for free at that time.
Absolutely.
But eventually, through that 3 months grind, I did come out, I did find a good job. Now, what did it teach me? That if I could come out of that shit hole, see, because I was living in comfort at home, parents are taking care, hostel also taking care, right?
Right.
So, and then job also in Chandigarh, right?
Right.
So, I consider myself extremely lucky that nature threw me out of there and this whole thing happened, right? And then I became a software engineer after this, okay? And I was a software engineer working in Bangalore and then working in the US. Then I come back to India and my visa gets rejected.
Yeah, I know. I don't understand.
Right? Now, that was another shock basically.
Right.
Like from our side. Now, what happened? The visa rejection led to what? Startup journey.
Because you were stuck here.
I was stuck here. Nandini was stuck here. We were figuring it out, but we started to get a lot of job offers. Because people who had worked with us in the past, they said, अच्छे बंदे हैं, we should hire them.
Right.
That gave us the confidence.
That कुछ नहीं तो
नौकरी मिल ही जाएगी, कुछ ना कुछ शुरू कर देते हैं. So basically, when the visa rejection happened, after that it was very traumatic. We were blaming the person, and because our case was absolutely fine, right?
Right.
But actually, that visa rejection is what made us discover. See, I wanted to be fashion designer, right?
Right.
By the time I finished engineering, I wanted to be advertiser.
Absolutely.
Then I became an ace programmer. Then I wanted to say, now I can quit and become a filmmaker.
Right.
So I was always trying to, because I was always feeling that I'm not in the right track basically. Right now, as I became an entrepreneur, 3 months after that, I was working 20 hours a day, but I felt deep within me that somehow that gap was filled basically.
You are feeling completely alive.
Aligned and alive, right? Since my first year in college, 1994, this happened in 2004.
Right.
So, like basically, so entrepreneurship came to me, by the way, right? By this visa rejection. I was trying to find fashion design. This never worked out, right? So basically, मुझे तो अब लगता है मतलब so whenever, so see again, first company we put our heart and soul in. We raised money, we couldn't raise more money, so we had to sell it for peanuts. Again, we felt pain, but see, Madhouse died, Morpheus was born.
So the hammer is the chisel, or rather, hammer is used, or pain is nothing but a hammer used to chisel
the unwilling men. Right? So the time has come for humanity to grow.
Yeah.
So the
AI is now coming to from the journey of knowledge economy to intuition economy.
Absolutely. See, look at COVID, right? COVID was a very big crisis globally.
Right.
But humanity came together somehow to deal with it.
Absolutely.
So if we decide, we can do it. And now we don't even have a choice. I mean, AI is like, it's a genius out of the box basically.
Absolutely. So Sameer, now we are entering to the third segment of the podcast, which is essentially the behavioral aspects of education. So I am blessed to have 2 daughters, as you know. My older daughter is a teenager studying in a school here in Delhi. My younger daughter is a bundle of joy, still in grade 1. So for my older daughter, I do know that she has a tremendous potential. So I'm speaking for a lot of parents, or on behalf of a lot of parents like me. I know she has tremendous potential, but at the same time she has other academic pursuits, or rather non-academic pursuits as well. She wants to do. So my specific question is, sometimes I am caught up in this, or I'm wrestling with the idea that I have to ask her to become extremely good at academics or really excel in one domain, I'm not saying at the expense of others, but at least excel in academic domain when you can. So live up to your own potential. And that's where, somehow I'm feeling I'm trying to kind of either impose my dreams, my aspirations on her, because she has other interests as well. So while she would like to, record movies, or rather record documentaries and do more artwork, academics is something that is a pressure that is coming from us. So how do we, what are your thoughts on this?
See, the thing is, once I read a interesting article which talked about, somebody was saying that if you're hiring, you hire the people who are higher in the academic qualification, GPA, or the lower one. So this guy had a very interesting perspective. He said, depends what job you have.
Right.
He said, if you have a person who was good GPA, most people who good GPA basically probably have done nothing else in life. He said, if you are looking for a job which doesn't need too much creativity, only needs some kind of repetitive work,
right,
then you get that guy. Right? And then he said, the people who have the medium GPA, when you talk to them, you ask them, why is your GPA medium? And if they tell you that they were busy doing 100 other things in life, and your job is the creative job, then you get these people. The third person is who has low GPA and did nothing else in life, so you can drop them off anyway, right? So, I can be very honest with you that in my own class in college, school class, people, the higher they were in the GPA segment, the more they've struggled basically. Life is not all about academics.
It's not a linear journey.
It's not. It's a very holistic journey, and basically academic pressure ke chakkar mein, like one of our friend was telling that his nephew has gotten into IIT Delhi, but he has no social skills. He has to live in a hostel. He doesn't know how to live on his own. Because he just got so much boxed into that IIT thing, right? So the question really is, how do you find a wide enough scope for your child to express themselves and find a balance for themselves, right? And if a child is, again, what do you optimize for?
Right.
See, you want to optimize for, I would say, growth of the child.
Absolutely.
And the growth has to be then seen in all across.
Yeah, it cannot be one dimension.
If the school is not grading the video, that doesn't mean that doesn't grow. I mean, you have to personally break down what does it take for anybody to create a video. All the skills, right?
Yeah.
But why is she able to do it very well? Because it's her own choice. There is nobody who was telling her what to do. Right?
Absolutely.
So whenever, see, the reason I excelled at extracurricular in my time, there was no video making, but you were going and doing plays, because there were no teachers involved in extracurricular.
So you had all the freedom to express yourself.
All the freedom to express, and the need to do well, need to excel, need to coordinate, make teams. All of it came from within.
Yeah.
And that skill is what has helped me in my life to do whatever else I am doing. Right. So we got to see what is stopping the child. And we got to also start giving as much importance to their non-academic pursuits. And in general, if you see a child is determined when they take up something to complete it, which means they will do well in life. So I think my advice is parents need to chill out basically.
Kind of retreat a little bit.
If you end up asking her to drop other things for academics, I think that's probably not a good idea, because you're basically taking away what she's good at, which might actually lead to a career, confidence, whatever, right? And academics, she might do it to make you happy, but then she might even carry it with her.
This reminds me of a sub that I read somewhere in a book, which said that they were trying to. So somebody was asking, how is excellence in a sport or in a game going to help you in leading your life? The answer was that games which are very much isolated or islands of their own, like chess, where you don't really need anyone's help. You're just being there and playing those.
Yeah.
Their help in living a more holistic life is very limited. Whereas if you have excelled at a sport, a team game, your abilities to do well in life are augmented because of that. Because that's a real life scenario.
Yes.
While in real life you will not be judged. So as you mentioned, you will not be judged only on academics.
See, also there is a very interesting concept. This one guy has come up with this finite games and infinite games. So he says finite game is where you have set artificial rules. Like school, academics, finite game.
Right.
But life is an infinite game.
Absolutely.
So you need the child to excel in infinite game scenarios, not the finite game scenarios. You see, a football match is also finite. Okay, 120 minutes, the whistle gone. But life is not finite. Startups are not finite.
Yeah.
It's infinite, right? So infinite changes, infinite variations.
Yeah.
So that is the real education, basically. So we need to know as parents what is real education.
Coming back to the idea that it's the parent who has to be free.
Parents are the guide, basically.
My next question is in form of a poem, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's by Dr. Shiv Mangal Singh. He says, वरदान मांगूंगा नहीं, ये हार एक विराम है, जीवन महासंग्राम है, तिल तिल मिटूंगा मैं, पर वरदान मांगूंगा नहीं. So metaphorically what he is saying is that, I am not going to beg in front of a god. So my bigger question is, should we raise children to be fearful or all submissive to higher power, or should we train them to be self-sufficient?
So this is a question which was asked in my daughter's school in one of the retreats to my mentors. I'm going to just repeat his answer. So I really liked that answer. So this one lady asked similar question, that how should I talk to my child about the God, right? Like if a child says, what is God? What should I say? So he says the best answer is to say, I don't know. And that is also a true answer.
Right.
And you can say, let's find out. So there is no need to impose your belief, A, B or C on a child. And then he took a pause. And then he said, this is actually the best answer to almost all questions your child asks.
I don't know.
Let's find out. Because even when your child is asking what is that and you say this is sun, do you really know what is sun?
I have not experienced it.
So he said a good mind, we are too much in a hurry to give answers to children. We don't let them explore. A good mind needs to know how to explore towards an answer.
Right.
That's important. It's not important to get it right at the beginning, right? He said if you let the children be, they'll figure it out. And I think Sana was about 3.5 at that time. And I could see that I was giving her a lot of answers ready-made.
Right.
Like if she asked, how does a fan work? So I will give her some answer which has electric motor and all. What does that mean? Do I even know how the motor works? How current works? I don't know. So that moment onwards, I, as much as possible, stopped giving her answers. And I was shocked to see that how much she knew and how much she could herself figure out, right? So I think if the concept of God is not clear to me, who am I to give it to my child, basically? So I can let them be, let them figure it out, basically. And maybe we can jointly explore if we are.
So now we are entering into the penultimate segment. This last one is of course a surprise for you. The penultimate segment is, you cannot give an answer. Categorically, you cannot give an answer. It depends. Or the answer cannot be balanced.
Okay.
These cannot be the answers of the questions.
It's black and white, basically.
Yeah, it has to be black and white. And pick a side, and I'm happy to hear your reasoning for the side.
Sure.
Journalist or specifics for our children, what's the right approach when it comes to upbringing them? Should we make them journalists or should we ask them to be more specific about areas or
my experience and view says the children need to be allowed to grow in all directions. So journalists basically, but journalists not from the sense that they only know little of everything. They know deeply everything, basically. That kind of journalist, basically.
Okay. Glad you did not say it depends on the situation.
No.
The second is, again...
the situation will depend on it. If they know this thing, they will be able to deal with it.
So again, a couplet or a शेर, to start my question. तो जिंदा है तो जिंदगी की जीत पर यकीन कर, अगर कहीं स्वर्ग है तो उतार ले ज़मीन पर.
Yes.
One with a well-defined mission or go with the flow. In terms of our children, should we ask them to pick missions in life? Be that deterministic fellow who is tu zinda hai to liya swarg zameen par, or should we allow them to be more fluid and let them flow where the wind is taking them?
We need to take ourselves out of the situation. It's up to the child, basically.
Okay.
We should leave the child. If the child wants, see, I am a go with the flow person, but my daughter is mission driven.
Right.
I can't do anything about it.
Okay.
I let her be. right? So basically, maybe she will change at some point. Maybe she will stick to it. Maybe they will find flow. I think let the children be, basically.
So let them lead.
Let them lead. You
Let
be the
them lead.
supporting actor.
Yeah.
Kind of,
Okay.
yeah.
It's their movie.
It's their movie, basically.
The problem becomes when we try to be the superstar in their movie.
Basically, we are the assistant to their movie.
Right. We are the ADs.
We are the ADs. We support them, basically.
Fantastic. Sameer, it has been so much fun, so much wisdom, so much uplifting experience for me to spend this time with you, all the wisdom that you have shared. The last and the final section of the podcast is, I want you to answer a question that I had not asked. So, any question that you feel I should have asked, or any wisdom that you want to be propagated to the world that I was not able to capture.
In the context of education?
In the context of education, of course.
I think honestly you have captured fairly 360 degree of the space. I can't
or any thought that you want our viewers to, leave with.
I think maybe we can reiterate a little bit of what we said, that basically, the children really become a lot like us. We have a lot of role to play. So if we wish for them to be in a certain way, we need to really work on ourselves. So we should be first and foremost willing to do the hard work to evolve and change ourselves. Because if I'm scared and insecure, my child will be. I can't say they won't be, right? So we need to imbibe those qualities and become so basically coming back to the idea of contagion,
Yeah.
So Mother has said contagion is the most powerful force in the world. So contagion can be of the darkness, which was COVID, right? But contagion can also be the light.
Absolutely.
So as a parent, if I can become light, then it will spread into my child, and one should be another thing is that don't panic, basically. Like basically important. If you are balanced as a person, your child is balanced, there will be times of ups and downs.
Yeah.
If you can chill through that, you will see in long term. I am very confident your children are children. Because see, why do I not bother what school she goes to? She can leave the school because I can see who she has become.
Right.
Now it does not matter which school she goes to. She will find her way in life, basically, right? So मेरे को तो दिख गया है, मैं उसके बाद मैं कोई चिंता नहीं करता हूँ, basically.
I am so glad that you spared all this time for us, and I would like to know, this is the first in the series of the podcast that we are trying to do.
Yes.
So we do need your best wishes and blessings.
Absolutely.
And we want this, the other analogy or example that I have when you said, we should be like contagion. The thought that came to me was, us being the light of the candle.
Absolutely.
What the candle does is, it passes on light from one source to another.
Yeah.
And that's the whole purpose of this podcast.
Yes.
Where, the idea is to bring people from different courses of life, whether entrepreneurs, teachers, professors, theater artists, or researchers who have done, well in their respective chosen profession, and they come in and share their wisdom of what education to them has been and what education in the future would be. I can say with a lot of confidence, there couldn't have been a better start to this podcast. Thank you very much. Thanks for all the time, and hopefully all of us will come and join you in Auroville sometime.
Yeah. Actually, I do have one thing I want to add, which I skipped before. That I want to recommend a book,
please,
on education.
Yeah.
Which changed the course of my own life, basically. And it's a book called Integral Education.
And
it's called Integral Education Beyond Schooling. Author is Practo, who's also my mentor.
Fantastic.
So if somebody is interested to learn about holistic, conscious, intuitive education, free progress education, it's a fantastic book.
We will make sure that we will probably put the link for the book in the description of this podcast.
Yes.
I am repeating again, it's Integral Education Beyond Schooling.
Yes.
By Practo.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.